Welcome back to the deep dive. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Today, we're diving into the world of wasps and bees right here in Nevada.
Oh, fantastic. Everyone's got a story about those, right?
Exactly. And we're going to unpack some of those stories, the good, the bad, and the stingy. We're using some great sources too. University extensions, agricultural departments, the works.
That sounds like a great mix. I think we should jump right in.
Yeah, let's go. So I think a lot of people, when they hear wasps and bees, they just think sting.
Oh, definitely.
But our sources are really emphasizing that most of these guys are actually beneficial.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's start with that. How are they actually helping us out?
Well, I mean, pollination is huge.
Right.
We all know about honeybees, right? But there are other bees out there doing the heavy lifting too, like leafcutter bees. They're crucial for so many of our crops, our gardens, even our wild landscapes.
It's amazing how much we depend on them.
Right. And then you've got your predatory wasps. They're like natural pest control, keeping all those pesky insect populations in check.
It's like a whole ecosystem of checks and balances happening in our backyards.
Exactly.
Okay, so sources break down the world of wasps into two main categories: social wasps and solitary wasps.
That's right.
Let's start with those social wasps, the ones that seem to cause the most buzz. Literally.
Okay, well, the social wasps, those are the ones that form those big colonies you see. They build those impressive nests, and those sometimes end up in places we'd rather they didn't.
Like under my eaves.
Exactly. We're talking about yellow jackets, hornets, and paper wasps. They're all part of the Vespidae family.
Paper wasps, those are the ones with those open comb nests, right? Those little upside-down umbrellas.
That's them. You know, it's incredible how they make those nests. They chew up wood, mix it with their saliva, and it turns into this paper-like material that's super strong.
It's like they're tiny little construction workers.
I know.
Okay, so these social wasps, they have a reputation for being a little, shall we say, unfriendly.
Well, yeah, but you have to think about it from their perspective.
Or their perspective.
It's late summer. They need to gather tons of energy to get ready for winter. Their colonies have exploded in size, so they need more and more food to keep going.
So that's why they're suddenly so interested in our picnics and sugary drinks in August.
Pretty much. And then, as it starts to get colder, they're looking for somewhere cozy to hunker down.
Which is why they try to sneak into our homes.
You got it.
So it's not that they're suddenly out to get us. They're just trying to survive.
Right.
Now, remind me again, how are those social wasp colonies structured?
Well, they're very organized. You have a queen, workers, and the males. Each one has a specific job to keep that colony going.
And I remember reading that only the new queens survive the winter.
That's right. The old queen, the males, and all the workers, they die off when it gets cold. But the new queens, the ones that have mated, they find a nice little hiding spot under some bark in a crevice and wait it out until spring.
That seems a little harsh,
It is.
but I guess it works.
It does. They start fresh each year. Then, when spring rolls around, those queens come out of hibernation and the whole cycle starts again. They build new nests, lay eggs, raise a new generation of workers. It's incredible.
A new generation to annoy us every August.
Right. Well, but they're doing their thing.
Yep.
And speaking of those nests, different wasps like to nest in different places.
Oh, that's right. So how can we tell who's moved in next door based on their choice of real estate?
Well, yellow jackets, they're tricky because they can nest just about anywhere. Underground, in walls, even hanging from trees. Then you've got your bald-faced hornets. They go for those really impressive big aerial nests, usually high up in trees, especially maples.
And paper wasps, those are the ones that seem to like building right on our porches, like they want to be part of the family.
They do. But here's the good news. No matter where they build, once those hard frosts hit, those nests are abandoned. They don't reuse them.
So even if you find a wasp nest on your property, it's not a forever problem.
Exactly. It's a temporary situation.
That's good to know.
Mm.
But, of course, while they're active, those nests can cause some concern, especially if they're right next to, like, your front door.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about wasp control, because I know that's on a lot of people's minds this time of year.
Well, before you go grabbing that can of wasp spray,
Yeah.
remember safety first.
Right.
Wasps sting.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that, so
Heck
be
is-
cautious.
Makes sense.
Now, if the nest is kind of out of the way, not causing any real trouble,
Right.
it's often best to just leave it alone.
Okay.
It's going to be abandoned pretty soon anyway.
Right. With the weather.
Exactly, once it gets cold enough.
Yeah. Makes sense. Live and let live.
Exactly.
But what if it's like right next to your front door?
Right.
You know, where kids are playing. You can't just ignore that.
Right. In those cases, you might need to take action.
Okay.
But, instead of going straight for the pesticides,
Yeah.
which, let's be honest, they have consequences
Right.
in the environment.
Yeah.
Let's think bigger picture for a second. Okay.
What if we could encourage those wasps to move
Oh, I like that.
naturally?
Yeah.
Make the area less appealing to them.
Okay, so be proactive.
Exactly.
So what are some ways we can discourage those wasps from moving in the first place?
Well, wasps are attracted to sweet things,
Oh, yeah, especially late in the summer.
especially late in the summer.
Right.
So keeping those sugary drinks covered,
Uh-huh.
cleaning up spills quickly,
Right.
making sure trash cans are sealed tight,
Okay.
all those things can make a difference.
So don't make it easy for them to get a free meal.
Exactly.
Okay.
And, wasps are also attracted to certain colors.
Oh, really?
Yeah, especially bright yellows and oranges.
Interesting.
So, if you're having a barbecue or a picnic outside,
Mm-hmm.
consider using lighter colored tablecloths and decorations.
Okay.
It sounds strange, but it can actually work.
Huh. Interesting.
And here's another one.
Okay.
Wasps tend to avoid certain plants.
Oh, look what?
Mint, basil, wormwood.
Okay.
Those are known to repel wasps.
So planting those around your patio or deck
Right?
can create a natural barrier.
Like a fragrant little fortress.
Exactly.
To keep the wasps away.
I like it. It's much better than relying on those harsh chemicals.
For sure.
And it's not just about repelling wasps.
Right.
It's about creating a more balanced ecosystem.
Right.
You can attract those beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings, and they can naturally control those pest populations that the wasps are attracted to.
Oh, that's a good point.
So it's really a win-win.
It's a holistic approach.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, what about those times
Yeah.
when you've tried everything and that wasp nest just has to go?
Right.
Well, there are ways to do that
Right.
safely and effectively.
Okay, because I'm guessing a lot of people just reach for that can of wasp spray
They do.
and just go to town.
But honestly, those aerosol sprays can be dangerous
Right.
if they're not used correctly.
Yeah.
And they often don't get rid of the whole colony. Plus, you're putting all those chemicals into the environment.
Right. And we don't want that.
We don't want that.
So what's a better way? What's a better approach?
Well, first of all, timing is key.
Okay.
Early morning or late evening,
Uh-huh.
when those wasps are less active,
Less active. Okay.
that's the best time to tackle a nest.
Okay.
And remember, always wear protective clothing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Long sleeves, pants, gloves, a face covering.
Safety first.
Safety first.
Right.
But what about the actual removal?
Yeah. How do you get rid of it without getting stung?
Well, for ground nests, insecticidal dusts can be very effective.
Okay.
The wasps track the dust back into the nest,
Uh-huh.
and it gradually takes care of the colony.
Okay.
Now, for those aerial nests,
Right.
you might need a targeted insecticide
Okay.
application.
Uh-huh.
But again, choosing the right product and using it correctly is crucial.
This sounds like it's getting a little complicated.
It can be.
Maybe this is where a professional comes in.
If you're not comfortable dealing with a wasp nest yourself,
Right.
call a pest control professional.
Okay.
They have the experience and the equipment to do it safely.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about social wasps,
We have.
those colony dwellers that we think of when we hear the word wasp.
Right.
But what about those solitary wasps?
Ah, the solitary wasps.
They sound a little less intimidating,
They are. They really are.
so less likely to sting.
Much less likely.
Okay, good news.
Good news.
But what are they doing all day if they're not busy with that whole colony life?
Well, they're actually incredibly important for pest control.
Oh, really?
Yeah, solitary wasps are expert hunters.
Okay.
They prey on all sorts of insects we consider pests.
Like what?
Spiders, caterpillars, beetles, you name it.
Wow. So they're actually helping us out.
They are. They're like little tiny assassins.
I'm starting to see wasps in a whole new light here.
That's the beauty of it.
Right.
Yeah.
We
fear what we don't understand.
I know that's true.
Now, take the mud dauber, for example.
Mud dauber, okay.
That's a type of solitary wasp that's pretty common here in Nevada.
Oh, yeah. I've seen those mud nests.
You know those little clay pots stuck to walls and under eaves?
Yeah, exactly. They look like little clay pots.
They're fascinating little architects.
Yeah?
They build their nests out of mud,
Ah.
creating these individual cells for each of their offspring.
Wow.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
They provision those cells with paralyzed spiders.
Wait, they hunt spiders?
They do. It's amazing.
Okay.
The female mud dauber stings the spider,
Uh-huh.
paralyzes it, but doesn't kill it.
Okay.
Then she carries that paralyzed spider back to her mud cell,
Wow.
lays an egg on it, and seals it up.
That's kind of creepy, but also kind of awesome.
It is.
So then the egg hatches.
The egg hatches.
And they got a ready-made meal.
Fresh spider delivery.
Wow. Nature is amazing.
It is.
So mud daubers definitely on the beneficial insect list.
They are.
What other solitary wasps are out there doing good work?
Oh, there's so many.
Really?
All sorts of different types.
Wow.
Each one has its own special hunting strategies and prey.
Wow.
Some go after caterpillars, others target beetles.
Okay.
Some even go after flies.
Wow. It's a whole army of tiny pest controllers out there.
It is, and because they're solitary,
Right.
they're not as territorial as those social wasps.
Right.
So they're less likely to sting unless they feel threatened.
So pretty easy to coexist with.
Pretty easy.
Okay, good to know.
So we've covered the wasp world,
Yes, we have.
both social and solitary.
Let's move on to their close relatives.
Bees.
Bees.
Everyone loves bees.
Everybody loves bees. They're so important.
They're essential for pollination and, of course,
Honey.
honey.
Let's start with the most famous bee of all, the honeybee.
Right.
We all know they make honey.
They do.
But tell me more about their social structure.
Well, their colonies are incredibly complex and organized. You've got a queen, you've got workers, you've got drones.
Uh-huh.
Each bee has a specific job,
Right.
and they communicate through these intricate dances
Wow.
and pheromone signals.
It's like a whole little city in there.
It is.
Yeah.
And unlike those wasps, honeybees form those semi-permanent colonies.
Okay.
They build those beautiful wax combs that we all recognize,
Uh-huh.
storing honey and pollen to feed the colony and raise their young.
And they're constantly working,
Constantly working.
buzzing from flower to flower, collecting nectar and pollen.
Exactly. It's incredible how much they do.
It is.
And it's not just about making honey.
Right.
They're responsible for pollinating a huge variety of crops.
That's right.
Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds.
They're essential for our food system.
They are. That's why protecting them is so important.
Absolutely.
They're facing a lot of challenges these days.
They are.
Habitat loss, pesticide use, diseases.
So we need to do what we can to help them out.
We do.
Now, I know we talked about swarming with social wasps. Honeybees swarm too, right?
They do.
It's basically the same idea.
Same idea. Overcrowded colony. The queen takes off with a bunch of workers
To find a new place.
to find a new home.
And that can be a pretty impressive sight.
It can be.
A little unnerving, though, if it happens in your backyard.
It can be, but it's a natural process.
Okay.
And it's a sign of a healthy colony.
But I'm guessing if they decide to settle in, like, the wall of your house, that's not a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
Definitely not something you want to deal with yourself.
No, you want to call a professional.
Call a professional.
If you see a swarm of bees that looks like it's settling in,
Right.
call a beekeeper or a pest control company.
Okay. Good advice. Better be safe than sorry.
Right.
Speaking of bees that can cause some concern,
Oh, yeah.
there's one type we need to address. The Africanized honeybee.
The so-called killer bee.
Yeah, I gotta admit those stories always freak me out a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of them.
Are they really as dangerous as they sound?
Well, let's separate fact from fiction. Okay.
The sting of an Africanized honeybee
Uh-huh.
is no more dangerous than a regular honeybee's sting.
Okay.
The venom itself is not worse.
So the killer bee name is a little bit of an exaggeration.
It is.
Okay.
The real danger is their behavior.
Oh, their behavior. Okay.
They're highly defensive,
Okay.
and they tend to respond to threats
Uh-huh.
with massive attacks.
Okay.
They'll send out way more guard bees
Then a regular honeybee colony.
than a European honeybee colony.
So it's not the single sting, it's the fact that you could get stung by hundreds of bees.
Exactly. They can chase victims for a long distance,
Oh,
and they can deliver hundreds or even thousands of stings.
that's terrifying.
It can be very serious.
Are Africanized honeybees common here in Nevada?
Unfortunately, they've established themselves in southern Nevada.
Okay.
There's the predominant strain of feral honeybees down there,
So something to be aware of.
especially if you live in those areas.
What should people do if they encounter a swarm of bees they think might be Africanized? The most important thing is to stay calm.
Okay.
Don't disturb the bees.
Right.
Retreat slowly and calmly.
Okay.
If you are being chased, run in a zigzag pattern.
Oh, really?
It makes it harder for them to follow.
Interesting.
And of course, call a professional.
Right. Call a professional.
The Nevada Pest Control Association
Uh-huh.
has a 24-hour bee information hotline.
Okay.
The number is 702-385-5853.
All right. Write that down, folks. That's a good one to have.
They can give you guidance and connect you with the right resources.
Perfect. Okay. So we've talked about social wasps, solitary wasps, honeybees.
Even Africanized honeybees.
Even Africanized honeybees. Is there anything else in the bee world we need to cover?
Well, we haven't talked about ground nesting bees yet.
Ground nesting bees. I don't even know what those are.
They're a fascinating group.
Okay.
Often get overlooked.
Tell me more.
Well, they're solitary bees,
Right.
just like those solitary wasps we were talking about.
Uh-huh.
But instead of building those nests in trees,
Right.
they dig burrows in the ground.
So like little underground architects?
Exactly. They prefer loose, well-drained soil,
Okay.
often nest in sunny areas.
So I might see them in my yard.
You might,
Okay.
especially in the spring.
Probably pollinating my flowers as we speak.
Probably. They're important pollinators
Okay, good.
for a lot of different plants.
And are they aggressive?
They're generally very gentle.
Wow.
They rarely sting.
Okay, that's got it.
They're not aggressive at all.
So what if you have a lot of them nesting in your yard?
Well, it can be a concern if you have kids or pets that might disturb the nests.
Right.
But remember, they're solitary bees.
Okay,
So you're not dealing with a whole colony.
right. That makes a difference.
It does.
So if you did need to discourage them from nesting in a certain area, how would you go about doing that?
Well, the good news is you don't need any harsh chemicals.
Oh, good.
You can just change the characteristics of the nesting site
Okay.
to encourage them to relocate.
So like what?
Well, planting grass or laying down sod
Yeah.
can make the area less appealing.
Oh, so make it harder for them to dig.
Exactly. Or you could cover the area with mulch or straw.
Right.
That'll deter them too.
So pretty easy to coexist with.
Pretty easy.
Just give them their space.
Give them their space and they'll do their thing.
And they're providing that valuable service by pollinating.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We've talked about wasps, both social and solitary.
Right.
And we've explored the world of bees.
From honeybees to ground nesting bees.
It's been a real deep dive.
A real deep dive into the buzzing world.
Into the buzzing world. I like that. It really has been a deep dive.
We've covered so much.
I feel like I've got a PhD in wasps and bees now.
Almost.
Almost.
Right? But even with all that we've talked about,
Yeah.
we've really just scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this amazing world of wasps and bees.
Right. It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. Our sources, they focus on the ones we're most likely to see here in Nevada.
Right. The local stuff.
Right. But globally, there are thousands upon thousands of wasp and bee species.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
Each one has its own unique adaptations,
Wow.
behaviors, roles to play.
It's like a whole other universe just buzzing around.
It really is.
And it makes you realize how interconnected everything is.
It does. These little creatures that we sometimes swat at or run away from,
Right?
they're crucial for maintaining the balance of our ecosystems.
It's like a giant web.
Exactly. And each thread is important.
And when you start to see those connections, you can't help but look at the world a little differently.
I can't.
I'm definitely looking at wasps and bees differently now.
Me too.
I used to just be afraid of them,
Right.
but now I see them as these fascinating creatures
They are fascinating.
with important jobs to do.
They really are.
You know, something I found really interesting in the sources
Oh, yeah.
was how wasps and bees are portrayed in our culture, in our mythology.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. They've captured our imagination for centuries.
Yeah.
They show up in our stories, our art, even our religious beliefs.
They're everywhere.
They're woven into the fabric of who we are.
Exactly.
I read that the ancient Egyptians associated bees with royalty.
That's right. They believed that souls took the form of bees after death.
Wow.
Pretty amazing.
And in Greek mythology, bees were often connected to the gods and goddesses.
They were messengers, symbols of inspiration, even sources of wisdom.
It's like these ancient cultures recognized something special in those bees.
They did.
Their industry, their community.
Their connection to nature.
It's beautiful.
It is.
What is it about bees that has resonated so deeply with us throughout history?
Well, they're master builders. They're organized. They worked tirelessly for their colony.
It's like a perfect little society.
And they produce honey, which has been a source of sweetness for us for a long time.
It's a symbol of abundance.
Prosperity.
It makes sense that we admire them.
It does.
Even wasps.
Yeah.
They show up in our cultural stories too.
They do, often associated with warfare.
Aggression.
Makes sense?
Yeah, with those stings.
Right. They're fierce defenders.
But I think it's more than just their aggression.
It is. They build these intricate nests.
Often in hidden places.
It adds to their mystique.
It's like they represent the untamed parts of nature.
Exactly. The forces that we can't fully control.
Forces that can be both terrifying and inspiring.
Absolutely.
I think that sums up our relationship with wasps and bees perfectly.
A mix of fear and fascination.
Respect and maybe a little bit of healthy fear.
Right. We need to respect them.
Yeah.
But the more we learn about them,
Yeah.
the more we understand their behaviors and their roles.
The better we can coexist.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, I hope they remembered that wasps and bees, despite those occasional stings, are incredibly important creatures.
They are.
They're pollinators, they're pest controllers, they're honey producers.
Right.
They've been shaping our cultures and inspiring our imaginations for centuries.
And they need our protection.
They do.
So much to think about.
There is
So much to learn.
always more to discover.
Well, that about wraps it up for this deep dive into the world of wasps and bees.
Thanks for joining us.
A big thanks to our expert for sharing your insights.
Oh, my pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there, thanks for diving in with us.
Keep exploring.
Keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating journey into the natural world.
See you then.